Hey, welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. Today is Talk Tips number 27. We're going to be talking about all of the equipment that you might need or think you need for your podcast. And some of it might surprise you. Go ahead and check it out. Okay, let's talk about all of the equipment. Now, I've got an equipment list. You can check it out in the show notes that's going to walk you through all the equipment that we started using when we first kicked off our podcast from beginner all the way till today. Now, if we add anything to this equipment list, don't worry. You're going to get a live updated version because I've just got it on a Google Sheet that we update and use all the time. So let's start with the basics. If you're just barely starting your podcast, I don't want you to spend a ton of money investing in equipment that you don't know how to use or that you don't know if you need or that won't last you. If you're just barely getting started in your podcast, you could just start with your phone. That's it. That's all you need. That's how I started. In fact, I started with my phone and my friend's phone, and we just put them up on tripods. We hit record, and then we checked them every 20 minutes to make sure they were still recording. And sometimes it was a good thing we did. Now, the very, very first thing that we bought outside of our phones was a set of those little mini microphones. Now, these microphones were the very first thing we bought because podcasting experience is video, just like you're seeing here, but some of you might be listening over audio as well. And we bought these Rode microphones. If you're watching on video, you can see I've got the receiver and the transmitter here. These microphones were the very first thing that we invested in addition to the little cords with the mini mics that come out of these. You can use these just on their own. In fact, you've probably seen a lot of YouTubers just speaking into this little box. That works. You can also just buy the lav mics that go with them if you don't want to have this clipped to you or if it's going to pull on your clothes or whatever. You want to have quality sound. The better the sound, the better the auditory experience. Fun fact, by the way, auditory experiences, as far as positive versus negative, will affect the watch time of your podcast. This is why Las Vegas casinos tune their machines to the key of C across every floor in the casino. The reason is if you have a machine that's winning in the key of D and this one's in E flat and this one's in C, it's causing an auditory dissonance, which makes people want to leave. So if you have terrible audio consistently, it won't make people want to stick around. Now, I've had a couple of podcasts where the audio didn't work or my mic wasn't plugged in. I post the episode anyway because done is better than perfect. But if you can improve your audio, you should use these microphones if you're just starting out. Now, the next thing that we bought was a nice camera and a tripod. No, that's not true. The next thing that we bought is some good lighting. Now, if you don't have really good lighting, that's okay. Just face your biggest window. That's all you've got to do. Your biggest window acts like a really big, beautiful softbox, and it's going to illuminate you really well. You want your face to be one of the brightest things on the camera. So make sure that you have a big, big window, at least your biggest window that you're sitting in front of. Now, if you don't have a window, you can get some soft boxes on Amazon for pretty darn cheap. That's in the list, but you're going to want to have some good lighting so the visual experience matches your audio experience and you've got a positive thing going on for both. There's a bunch of odds and ends you can buy as far as like adapters and multi-mic things. You can get an upgraded, HD camera if you want. But the next thing I would invest in if I were you, is a full-blown camera, a full recording camera, the thing I'm talking to you in right now. We recommend the Sony a6400. It's in the list, but the reason that we love this camera, and most podcasters and YouTubers recommend this one as well, is because of the performance and the speed. We really like the way it looks, and it actually is very affordable as well. You also do need some extra special SD cards with this one. The reason is these SD cards need to be able to chew the data really, really quick. You can't have like an SD card that's not able to process all the data fast enough, and now you get glitches, your video gets missed spots. You don't want that. So make sure you buy the right SD cards with the fastest speed possible and the biggest capacity possible for your camera. The next things go with that. You got some adapters. You can add a mic on top. Richard likes to put a cager on the camera so that we can add handles for stabilization when we podcast on the go. But I would say the next major purchase you need to make is a tripod to put that camera on, especially if you're recording solo. Something to hold up the camera. So invest in a really good quality tripod. You can get like the $15 ones, but I recommend spending some significant money. And here's one of my rules, you guys. If it protects you from the ground, put money in it. You're going to want to put money in good shoes, put money in good tires, put money in a good tripod. You won't be sorry. Okay, the next thing I want you to take a look at is now you're leveling up your audio experience. Going from these little mics, which, guys, we keep these. We use these on the go. But here in studio, we use mics like this. This, again, increases the quality of the sound. Now, with that, you're going to need a bunch of cables that make the mic talk to the camera and make the mic talk to your computer. I'm not going to record an entire video on which cables you need to buy. In fact, they're all in my spreadsheet. But once you get to the really pro level and you're actually building your own studio or you're using a studio, I want you to watch for this piece of equipment. A soundboard. Now, we have our own soundboard that we have because I have a studio in-house. If you're renting a studio, these are going to be the things that you want to make sure the studio has. Really good quality audio, really good quality video, the soundboard, and good lighting. I want you to watch the shows that studio produces and make sure the production value is where you want your podcast to be. Now, there's a bunch of additional, odds and ends as far as like the cam link and the memory stick. Those are all in this sheet that I'm going to give you. But if you're building a studio, you also want to have an external sound experience, meaning the things that are not directly touching your podcast as far as sound goes. I'm talking about the panels on the wall, the little, toothy looking soundboard sticky things that go on the wall that they look like eggshells, right? These are going to create a positive sound experience within the room and deaden a bunch of the echo and a bunch of sound that shouldn't be there. When we first built our studio, it was a concrete box. It was so echoey, and the more angles and corners we can, the better the audio is because we're not getting so much bounce in our sound. Now, I'm going to go down into a little bit of lighting. I come from a photography background. The position of your lighting matters, right? I want you to not have harsh light. I want you to have a soft box, some kind of a soft lighting. I have a big old onion. That's what I call it. It's a lantern box. You can use a soft box if you want, but something that puts the light in a flattering direction for you, again, so that you have a positive visual experience. I also invested in some wash lights for the other parts of my studio, so it's on brand with my colors and it also illuminates the wall. The entire list, again, is in the description of the show notes so you can see everything that we've purchased. And again, we're adding to it as we go. If you have questions about anything relevant to this episode, please put those questions in the comments. I want to make sure your podcast is top notch and beyond the quality, the production value. And by the way, we host regular podcast workshops. Richard and I have produced, to date, I don't know how many episodes are going to be out by the time this one goes out, but we're well over 50 episodes. And we have enough education in this, so we have helped other people launch their podcast. In fact, if you spend 3 days with us, we're going to give your podcast not just filmed and edited, we're going to get it launched. When you come to the podcast workshops that we put on, we take 3 days with you. We record your first 3 episodes. We teach you how to edit them. We get them scheduled. We get them posted. We get the cover art for your YouTube channel and your Spotify and the back end stuff for your call to action. Literally everything that you need to monetize your podcast, not just get it launched, is all in this podcast workshop. If you want to come to the next one, check the link in the description. We've also taken this podcast workshop and recorded it. So if maybe you can't make it in person, but you want to see everything that we're doing, that's available as well. Again, check the description for that. And remember, I told you I was going to give you a giveaway. I want you to get on as many shows as possible. Do podcast swaps with other podcast hosts. If you go to mariannehickman.com/database, you'll get access for free to that entire podcast database. The notes where I have all of our supplies list is also free. This episode is jam-packed with free stuff I'm just giving away. So if you've ever thought about starting a show, read the description of this episode and you're going to have everything you need to get going. And I will see you on the next episode.